Welcome back everyone to the second part of our discussion on limits. Hope you did go through the first part, which is what a limit is. So in that first part we defined the limit, and now we're looking at the types of limits. So now the types of limits that we have are, the first one is one-sided limit. Now understand, say limit is simply a number that a function goes close to as its input is approaching a certain value. Now we are giving the types, and the two types are, the first one is one-sided limit. Now the sides we understand to say it could be the left side or the right side. So on the one-sided limit, this is where we have left-sided limit, and the other one, which is the right-sided limit. So we said, if I have limit of my function f of x, the limit of f of x is equals to L. That is to say, f of x is going close to L as x is approaching a number c. Now in our introduction, we discussed that x is going close to c, but x can never be equal to c. Now we know to say x being close to c, it could be a value which is less than c, or x could be greater than c but close to c, meaning approaching c. Now to be very specific, if x is approaching c and x is less than c, we say that that kind of limit will simply be a left-sided limit. And if x is greater than c but x is approaching c, then we say that that kind of limit is right-sided limit. Now to show it in terms of this notation we have, if x is approaching c from the left, meaning that x is less than c, we will say to c we will assign an exponent which is negative. Now this doesn't mean that c is negative, it's just telling us to say c is being approached by x from the left side, or rather I would say x is less than c. And this is what we get. This doesn't mean that c is negative. And the other type of limit is where you have our function, limit of our function being equals to L, as now x approaching c from the right. So what we do is we indicate a positive. So this tells us to say x is approaching c from the right. That is to say x is greater than c but close to c. And since x, a number larger than c is approaching c, our function will give us a limit of L. So these are the types of one-sided limits, which are left-sided and right-sided. Right-sided limit. So if it is a negative here, you need to understand to say c is being approached by x from the left, and if it's a positive, you need to understand say x is approaching c from the right. So now I move on to the other type. The other type is two-sided or double-sided. So for the two-sided or double-sided limit, you need to understand to say here you are not really specifying which side x is approaching c from. So what you do is you just write this as limit as x is approaching c of our function is equals to L. Now there's a condition for a limit to exist, or rather to be defined. The condition is that if I have my function of x approaching c from the left, the result should be the same as when x is approaching c from the right of the same function. If this is our case, then we conclude say limit exists. So every time our function gives us a limit of x approaching c from the left, the same as when x approaching c from the right. Same result, it means that limit exists, and if not, limit does not exist. So these are the two types of limits. The first one being one-sided, which can be left-sided, where we assign a negative. The other one is right-sided, where we're going to assign a positive, and the other one is double-sided, to tell us to say it is being approached from both the left side and the right side. And for a limit to exist, it means that both sides should give us the same result. Thank you. See you in the next video.